Hello, and welcome to the Information Security Amateur. Today, we will be talking about data encryption and security in history. I'd like to tell you all I appreciate you stopping in to view my video, taking time out of your busy day to do so. I hope you get as much out of it as I feel I did. My name is Scott Daugherty, and I am a computer information technology student at Metropolitan State University in the computer science department. So today we'll be talking about data security and data encryption and security in history. And instead of me, a student who I've just got a semester in on this stuff, instead of me talking and babbling all and on and on and on, figured I would defer to an expert and let you hear it straight from the horse's mouth. No offense to our guest that's coming up. So I have Eric Knudsen that has decided to join us, has graciously decided to join us. He served as an electronics technician and then eventually a communications manager with top secret clearance on the ship that he served on in the Navy. The reason why I chose to talk to him is because he dealt with data encryption and private access to secure information on a daily basis, and that information was used for tactical maneuvers and deployments of ships in the Navy so that everybody could move in unison and everybody would know where to go. And everything changed on a daily basis, so he was constantly dealing with security of information. So why data encryption and security in history? And in particular, I chose military history because it seems that information is much more sensitive than anything else. They always had to stay ahead of the game. And whereas Eric served from 1989 to 94, a lot of the things that they were doing back then are now still standards that we build upon today. Looking at how things exchanged hands back then, or how information got shipped to ship, and even how they went and retrieved the information. So there was like the types of protocols that they used to modulate. He even sort of said it's sort of like SSL today. The ship-to-ship communication was a lot like a WAN tunneling. The types of equipment they used, extremely outdated and were much more highly technological today, but it seems that we emulate that in the digital world with the way that we do things, whereas they used analog equipment and strung things together to pass one message through another machine to encrypt, and then used punch cards to get into rooms, and you had to use two people. So it was interesting to see how information got from one ship to the other and how it kind of compares to today, and then see if y'all see a way that you could intercept a message that is being transferred from ship to ship, and see if you can tell in the conversation where you might be able to do that. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to view during this video, to kind of look at and see if you can figure it out, and we'll talk about it at the end. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce you to Eric Knudsen and let him tell you what he did. And Eric, I guess we'll turn it over to you and can tell us about what you did in the Navy, and then we will go ahead and carry on from there. And I appreciate your time, and you go ahead, Eric. Thanks.
I was an electronics technician, so I had, and I was an electronics technician for 2 years, and I also had 2 years of training leading up to that. And it started with basic electronics, troubleshooting circuit boards, transistors, resistors at component level, troubleshooting, and then I moved on to communication principles, radar, and wireless communications.
The wireless communications?
It was all wireless. It was all shipboard communication equipment. So it was navigational radar and SATCOM. The communication part covered SATCOM, communications, satellite communications. And then for 2 years, I just maintained all of the communication systems on the ship I was stationed on.
Wow. Okay. So communications back and forth. I guess all types of communication, or was it data, or was it like telling ships directions?
It wasn't data communications how you would think of it, where you're sending files and whatnot. It was voice communications. The transceivers I worked on were also used for data but they would go directly into a teletype.
Yep.
So you would have a paper printout, and they used various protocols for transmitting data over the airwaves. They used phase shift keying and frequency shift keying, just different ways to modulate an RF signal.
Okay.
But the end result was a piece of paper. Somebody in the radio room would see a transmission coming across and would actually print out this piece of paper through a mechanical teletype. And
what was the data that usually was coming
stored
across?
actually as paper?
What was the data that would come across on the paper?
Any kind of military operation information.
Okay. So
anything, ship deployments,
tactical information,
everything.
Timings of things.
Messages from other command posts.
Gotcha. Now, to me, that ship to ship, that's two ships telling each other what to do. It's very long-winded, but we still had to encrypt that data and secure it because we wouldn't want the enemy to intercept it, right?
Right.
So how did you guys achieve that? In the end, I guess, what kind of machines were y'all working on, and how did y'all connect those and make them work together so that the data was synced?
Well, I don't know how it works nowadays. I'm sure it's more advanced, but the radio room that I worked in, was at the top of the ship, and it was this huge, it kind of reminds me of a data center type environment, except they had tons of different types of transceivers and communication devices. In the teletypes, you'd walk in and hear the teletypes clicking away 24 hours a day. But
different lines of communication.
What
was that? Different lines of communication.
Yeah, all sorts of different lines of communications. But to get back to your question about how it was secure, the transceivers that I worked on, actually you would patch them through an encryption device. And I wasn't a crypto tech, but I used to have a top secret security clearance, and you would have to go down to this huge vault with two people because it was two-person integrity.
Nice.
Because you figure, if you have two people, there's less of a chance of somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, because it would have to be more of a conspiracy, and it just lessens the odds a lot if you have two people go down there.
Yeah.
So we'd go down, and the keeper of the vault would open the door, and they would have another person with them as well. And then we would go in, and we'd have a printout of the codes that we were supposed to use. And then we would pick up a paper tape and then go up to the radio room, or go and slide it through. It was this long, a long piece of tape with little holes punched out like the first computers ever invented.
Yeah, like a punch card, right?
Slide it through, and then that would encrypt it for the day or that particular communication that had to take place. And this device I didn't actually work on, but I would program, and we would patch that through a satellite transceiver, which after you patch it through the satellite transceiver, it would also go through a TDMA multiplexer, which would program which time slots and which protocol, if it were a data connection, voice connection, whatever, those are the two main types, and the data being the teletype one I just talked about.
Yep.
It would go through this TDMA multiplexer before they hit the satellite, and then when it got to whichever station you were communicating with, it could be another ship, it could be a fixed, shore station, it could be a temporary shore station, could be a submarine. They would also have that code on the other end and be able to encrypt it, so it couldn't be intercepted.
Gotcha. So they could decrypt.
Yeah, they could decrypt it on their end based on the the paper tape code that they put in the exact same kind of equipment where.
How did the message know where to go? How kind of like we send internet information today, it's got its addresses along the way to know where to send it. How did it know where to get to back in the day?
Well, the opposite endpoint would also have the same information to program into the TDMA multiplexer, listening on the same time slots, using the same satellite. So they would also have to tune their transceivers into that exact same satellite on the exact same time slot, have the exact same encryption code.
Gotcha.
And then they would just listen, or they would patch it to their teletype and get the message, or just talk, voice communication.
Okay, gotcha. So you would send the information out. Did you know necessarily where it was going to be going, or did the message, because of that timing between the TDMA, that's how it got to its place?
Yeah, they would just tune it in. It's like tuning in a radio dial. You're just listening on that time slot from that satellite.
Previously,
you also have to point the satellite antennas on top of the ship. You would have to tune and point to the right satellite.
Very interesting. That is really cool. But I really appreciate your time and sharing us with us how you information exchanged between ships back in the day. I think it's a good look to see how we used to move machines together in unison through that kind of data exchange. It's analog at points, but I really think it explains the end-to-end in a neat way where now we've automated all that and we'll have circuits to do those things between each other. Whereas it used to be, we would spit it out and then use manual pass-through. So I really appreciate your time, and I will talk to you soon, okay? You have a good day.
Okay, you too.
Thanks. Ciao.
No problem.
Okay, so I truly appreciate Eric visiting with me today to discuss his experiences in the Navy. It was interesting to hear about how he managed the communications that he received on his ship, and top secret communications at that, and how he had to have a second person to authenticate to get into the room or the vault where the information was sent, and then had the machines that he had to run it through to decrypt it, and not to mention encrypt it when he wanted to send it out, using cards to slide through to get into the door, and both of them had to have their cards. So that was a lot like our two-factor authentication that we use for when we're putting in credit card information or other secure information on a website. I saw that comparable to that. And then how the ships had to have the same their transceivers aimed at the same satellite, using the same encryption and on the same time slot at that same time that it was being sent out. And if y'all remember me asking where you thought you might be able to intercept a message, that is where I meant that we could. And given a person has to have all that information, and there's two people that have it, and but that's still two people, and there's a people that can leak out that information. So I saw that as the vulnerability to that system, where a person could leak out the information and allow somebody else to do harm or to intercept a message that it wasn't meant for. So I thought that was interesting, and it is very time consuming to get the information. I mean, if you knew it was coming, it had to be aimed at that time. So back in the day, things were a lot slower, and I can imagine a lot harder to maneuver. Whereas now, today, we have the Navy launching their third MUOS satellite, which is, what does that stand for? So the MUOS, the operational capability, will assure the users, particularly those carrying radios in the field or while dismounted on patrol, secure on-demand voice and data communication services, both in point-to-point mode and through network communications. And so the encryption will all be done through the network, and you won't have to have these same archaic, antiquated ways of getting information. And then ultimately, the MUOS satellite constellation will provide users with 10 times more communication capacity over the existing system by leveraging modern mobile communications technology and simultaneous voice and data capability. So they're going to be providing beyond line-of-sight communication for all branches of the U.S. military And the Navy delivered space-based narrowband capability also ensures reliability of worldwide coverage for emergency assistance and disaster response for humanitarian relief. Whereas I can't imagine that old system was necessarily there for them. So those are great advances on something, but still buried within our technology are those same ways of protecting information and securing it to make sure that nobody can use it for the wrong reasons and intercept it when they shouldn't be. So I hope you all have learned a lot today on the Information Security Amateur. Again, my name is Scott Daugherty with Metropolitan State University. I'm a student in Computer Information Technology in the Computer Science Department. I hope you all have a great day, and we will see you all next time.